Hi, my name is Ella Carlotto, and this is my data story for CSC 201. My data story focuses on how sleep affects our overall health, from stress levels to our increased risk for heart issues. I chose this topic because sleep is something that we all experience, but many people, such as myself, struggle with sleep. I was interested in how poor sleep can connect to feelings of tiredness, being stressed, and also have an impact on our daily and long-term health. To study this topic, I started by asking a few questions. The main question I posed was, what impact does sleep have on our overall health? I also posed some related but more focused questions that helped me make predictions on how factors of sleep, like sleep quality or duration of sleep, impacts stress levels, energy, and daily choices, such as caffeine usage. Some of the questions that I asked were, do stress levels correlate with shorter sleep duration? My prediction was yes, because high stress can disrupt sleep and make it harder to fall or stay asleep. Another question was, are younger individuals more likely to report better sleep quality than older individuals? I also predicted yes, because younger people tend to have fewer health issues, which could potentially lead to better sleep quality. Are people with poor sleep quality more likely to have higher stress levels? I also predicted yes. Poor sleep can increase feelings of stress due to fatigue and irritability. Is there a trend between shorter sleep duration and abnormal blood pressure? I predicted yes, because not getting enough sleep can raise your blood pressure due to increased stress on the body. Are people with poor sleep quality less physically active? I also predicted yes, because people who don't sleep well may feel more tired and less motivated to exercise. I found my dataset on Kaggle by searching sleep habits and health and filtering the results by most votes. The top result was the dataset that I linked in my website on this page above. After reviewing its contents, I decided that it fit my needs for the project well, providing multiple data points and relating to sleep lifestyle factors such as exercise and stress levels. I use combinations of data from this online dataset. It's called Sleep, Health, and Lifestyle Dataset, which is a synthetic dataset that includes information on around 400 individuals. It was created to explore how different lifestyle factors are related to sleep and how that might affect a person's overall health. I also used data from the CDC and data I collected from a Google Forms survey. I used Python programs to help me organize and understand this information using lists, functions, sorting techniques, and visualizations. To collect original data from peers, I created a Google form and shared it with URI students and family. The form asks questions that gather important information like age, number of hours slept a night, quality of sleep, whether or not one feels rested, usual bedtime, quality of sleep over a week, whether or not they have a sleep disorder, caffeine usage, typical stress level, physical activity in minutes, daily steps, blood pressure, BMI, and whether or not they have any chronic conditions. When looking at the immediate responses, most students reported their stress levels between 6 and 8, with 7 being the most common response, while quality of sleep is reported between 5 and 8, with 7 being the most common response. These charts do not reveal a strong correlation between respondents' stress levels and their sleep quality, but they do help to answer one of my research questions, which was, are people with higher stress levels more likely to report lower sleep quality? From the trends in the Google Forms data, there wasn't a super strong connection between higher stress and lower sleep quality. Many people with high stress still reported good sleep, and others with low stress had poor sleep. This suggests that stress alone might not be the only thing that's affecting sleep and that other lifestyle factors may also play a role. That's just one of the benefits of having a data set with many variables, so you can kind of see if other connections are made between lack of sleep and lifestyle. I also use Google Trends to explore the terms insomnia and sleep apnea and sleep aid. When I looked for the search history for insomnia, I saw a spike in 2020 during the start of COVID, which made sense because it was a not normal time. People were more anxious, their routines were off, and that probably affected sleep. Searches for sleep aid also went up during that time, which makes me think that people turn to like melatonin or other medication to help them sleep. Now I'm going to walk you through how I cleaned and processed the survey data I collected using Google Forms. Once I downloaded the responses from my Google Forms survey, I started by cleaning the data in Google Sheets. I checked for issues like missing values and inconsistent formatting. For example, some people didn't answer questions like blood pressure, stress level, or BMI. In other cases, instead of writing a number like 7 for sleep hours, someone typed 7, the word, which I had to fix manually. I also found one clear fake response that included values like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 for one of their responses, and also reported 0 hours of sleep, 0 steps. So I removed that row entirely because those answers just don't make sense. I also looked for range and data type errors, and I made sure that age was a number for all responses. Sleep hours weren't more than 24 hours, and stress ratings were between 1 and 10. I used Google Sheets tools like sorting, filtering, and conditional formatting to look for anything that stood out. I also fixed small formatting issues like correcting spelling. For example, someone spelled unknown without the second N after K, so I changed it to unknown, correct spelling. And I standardized some of the other responses, like the way people wrote their health conditions. Some people wrote anxiety/depression or anxiety, depression, so I just made it a consistent format across all responses. In total, I removed 1 invalid record and made small corrections to about 15 other responses. That included fixes for spelling, formatting, and capitalization to keep everything clean and consistent. After the data was cleaned, I created summary tables to answer my main questions. I made 2 tables that compared sleep quality, hours of sleep, and how rested someone felt, grouped by the reported stress level. In both my survey data and the public data set, I found the same trend. People with lower stress reported better sleep and feeling more rested. For example, people with a stress level of 4 had an average sleep quality of about 6.9, while people with a stress level of 10 only averaged around 5. This does support my original prediction that higher stress is linked to worse sleep and feeling less rested. In this section of my data story, I'll go over the visualizations that I created using both the online data set and my own survey responses. These visualizations helped me clearly see the patterns and trends that support my research questions. The first chart I made is a bar chart that compares both average sleep duration and sleep quality across different stress levels. This chart shows a clear pattern. As stress goes up, both sleep duration and sleep quality go down. People with high stress levels get less sleep and report worse sleep quality, while people with lower stress tend to sleep more and feel more well-rested. This strongly supports my original question about whether stress negatively impacts sleep. The second chart I created looks at how sleep quality changes with age. It shows that people in their early 30s tend to report the highest sleep quality, and after that, scores slowly go down. The change isn't drastic, but the trend suggests that sleep quality declines a little with age. This helps me answer my question about whether younger or older people tend to sleep better. The data suggests that middle-aged adults have the best sleep, probably because they have more stable routines and probably fewer sleep disruptions as compared to younger and older adults. The last chart shows the main trend in sleep quality by age group. It supports what I saw earlier, that people in their early 30s report better sleep, and that sleep quality starts to drop after age 50. This trend helped me explore one of my key questions: do younger people report better sleep than older people? The data suggests yes, but it also shows that the relationship might not be simply about age, and it can be other lifestyle factors. But overall, the 3 visualizations help me find patterns that connect back to that previous question and the survey results, and they were a big part of telling how sleep changes with stress and age. For assignment 3, I created a Python program that uses basic calculations to estimate how sleep problems affect the U.S. population. The idea behind my program was to show just how many people are impacted by sleep-related issues like insomnia, poor sleep quality, and the risk of heart disease from not getting enough rest. To do this, I used publicly available statistics and applied them to the U.S. population to make the numbers easier to understand. For example, I stored the total U.S. population in a variable and then used percentage estimates for things like how many people don't get enough sleep, how many have insomnia, and how many face increased heart risks. Then I used simple math operations to calculate how many people that really is, like the total number of Americans. I also added comments in the code to explain what each part does and used clear print statements to make the user output more friendly. This program connects to my topic because it shows sleep issues aren't just personal, they affect millions of people, and that has an impact on public health. This program helped me build a foundation for my later assignments because it helped me practice variables, user input, if statements, and other basic calculations, which are all things that I used in my later programs. For assignment 4, I created a Python program that uses lists to store and analyze my survey data about sleep habits and stress levels. For assignment 5, I wrote a Python program that introduced how to work with simple variables and statistics to explore my topic of sleep and health. In this particular program, I used what I had learned so far, which was variables, basic math, and print statements to calculate statistics about sleep issues in the U.S. population. For example, I used numbers from reliable sources like the CDC to show how many Americans might be affected by things like sleep deprivation, insomnia, or lack of physical activity due to poor sleep. I started by creating variables for the U.S. population and percentages related to common sleep problems. Then I used operators like the multiplication and division operators to calculate real numbers, like how many millions of Americans that percentage actually represents. For example, if 30% of Americans don't get enough sleep, I multiplied that by the total population to estimate how many people exactly that affects, to put it more into a perspective. I also used print statements to explain what each number meant, so it would be easy for the user to follow. This helped me connect the statistics to my larger research question, which was how does sleep impact our health and daily life? And that really clearly shows how sleep impacts the overall American population. It gave me a good understanding for the use of my later code, and it showed me kind of more real-world data and how that tells a story for the American population. For assignment 6, I created a Python program called Sleep Health Program. This program was interactive and let the users choose from a menu to learn about common sleep health issues in the United States. The goal of the program was to make health statistics easier to understand by turning them into real population estimates. The program is based on data from the NIH Medical Library article titled Sleep Disorders and Sleep Deprivation, an Unmet Public Health Problem. This program was very similar to my 2 previous programs that also used this data. It used U.S. population numbers along with the percentages to estimate and calculate how many people are affected by things like sleep disorders, insufficient sleep, heart disease risk, and trouble falling asleep. When the program runs, the user sees a menu with 5 numbered options, and they can choose one of the first 4 to see the data on that topic, or choose option 5 to quit the program. If they entered a number outside the valid range, the program gave them an error message and asked them to try again. I found this program useful because of its use of functions. I wrote a total of 8 functions to make the code more organized and reusable. 1 function displayed the title and introduction. 1 shows the menu. 1 checks and validates the user's input. 4 functions each display data for a specific sleep topic, and the main function controls the program from start to finish. So when you call the main function, the program enacts all of the functions that are inside the main program. So using functions overall helped me keep my code neat, and it was easy to update. For example, the check choice function takes in 2 arguments, a minimum and a maximum value, and it makes sure the user's input is valid, and it returns the clean value to the main function so it can decide what to do next. Each of the topic displays functions like show sleep disorders or show heart disease risk handles one part of the output. An example of what the user sees when they select a topic is if they chose option 1 for sleep disorders, the program prints the percentage of people affected, the U.S. population, and the estimated number of Americans suffering from that condition. It does the same for the other 3 conditions, always showing the percentage and the total estimate. So it helps raise awareness about how widespread these problems are. If 27% of Americans suffer from sleep disorders, and you did the math, that's over 89 million people. By turning the percentages into real population numbers, it shows just how big of a problem poor sleep can be across the country. This assignment overall helped me to define functions. It taught me how to call functions, how to pass arguments, and how to return values back to the main part of the program. And it also showed me how the menu-based interface can make it a little bit easier for users to understand and separate those parts up. For assignment 7, I created a Python program that uses lists and the matplot library to make 4 simple graphs related to sleep health. The program explores how factors like age, physical activity, stress level can affect both sleep quality and sleep duration. Instead of using a CSV file, I picked a smaller set of values from the sleep and health data set that I used in class. I focused on key columns like age, sleep quality, physical activity, stress level, and sleep duration. I stored this data in Python lists so I could work with it easily and create clean, readable visualizations. So the specific data I used was ages between 22 and 31, sleep quality scores ranging from 5 to 8, physical activity levels from 3 to 8, and average sleep duration and sleep quality grouped by stress level, which was low, medium, and high, and the number of people in each stress group for the pie chart. I chose these values to match research questions I posed earlier, like how stress and age might relate to sleep. I designed the program by first creating lists for each of these variables. Then I used the matplot library to make 4 types of graphs. The line chart showing how sleep quality changes with age, the scatter chart showing the relationship between physical activity and sleep quality, the bar chart comparing average sleep duration and sleep quality by stress level, and the pie chart that shows how many people fall into each stress category. In the code, I calculated some basic statistics, the minimum, maximum, and average sleep quality using a loop. To stay organized and avoid repeating code, I created a few functions for my graphs and calculations. Some of the trends I noticed were that people with higher physical activity tend to report better sleep quality, which was shown in the scatter plot. Sleep quality did not change much with ages between 22 and 31, and the line chart was mostly flat. This was probably because I used a very short age range, so in the future I could use a larger group So maybe age ranges from 10 to 65 to show more of a difference in ages. And people with lower stress reported longer sleep and better sleep quality. So that was clear in the bar chart, and that did coincide with my original prediction, which was that people with higher stress tend to have lower sleep quality and shorter sleep duration. And lastly, the pie chart showed that most people had medium stress levels in the data set, and then there were a few people who had high and low stress levels compared to the overall medium stress level. This program was helpful because it helped me use Python lists to make visualizations, and it helped me support some of my predictions about how these lifestyle factors can really affect sleep. For assignment 8, I created a Python program that works with my survey data. I use dictionaries and the NumPy module to analyze and visualize these patterns related to sleep. In this assignment, I used a CSV file that contained the clean version of my Google Forms responses. Each row in the file represented one person's answers to the survey questions. I read the file using the CSV module and stored the data into a dictionary where each row became one entry. I then used a for loop to go through each row and check for valid responses, especially for the age, the linear rating scale, and the multiple choice questions. As I cleaned and filtered the data, I stored the valid responses in lists. For example, I collected valid numeric values from my sleep quality question, which was the 1 to 10 rating scale, and added those to a list. I also counted how many times each option was selected for multiple choice questions. In this case, I used that to track caffeine usage and other things like whether or not people had a sleep disorder, insomnia, things like that. Once I cleaned the lists, I used the NumPy module to calculate a statistic on the rating scale. I chose to calculate the mean sleep quality scores across all valid responses, and this number helped me get a general idea of how many people rated their sleep and how that tied into other habits like caffeine use or stress. I also created a visualization using the Matplot library to display the results of my multiple choice question. The chart showed how common different levels of caffeine use were among the people who responded. This supported one of my original research questions about how poor sleep might lead to more caffeine usage. To summarize the programming techniques I used dictionaries to store and access each row of data. I used loops to check values and separate valid responses. I used NumPy to calculate a mean value from my rating scale question, and I used the Matplot library to visualize my results. To learn how to use CSV files in my Python programs and how to connect my individual survey answers to bigger trends. It also gave me experience with data validation and helped me understand the connection between sleep quality and everyday habits. For assignment 9, I worked with my clean Google Forms survey data using the Pandas data frames. This assignment helped me to take a larger, more detailed look at the trends in my data. I first imported my CSV file into the Pandas data frame, and I visually inspected it for any issues. I found a few common data errors, including missing values, especially in sleep quality and stress level columns, duplicate rows where someone submitted more than once, incorrect data types like strings and numeric columns, for example, someone writing 7, the word, instead of 7. To clean the data, I removed duplicates, dropped rows with missing values in key columns, and converted text-based numbers to actual integers. After cleaning this, my data frame had about 120 valid rows with 13 columns of usable data. Next, I used filtering and sorting to create a few subsets of my data. For example, I created a subset that only included people with low sleep quality scores so I could compare them to people who reported better sleep. This helped me explore how sleep quality was connected to things like stress, blood pressure, and caffeine usage. I also created summary tables using both the group by and pivot table modules in Pandas. One summary table grouped people by sleep quality score and calculated the average stress level in each group. Another pivot table compared average caffeine usage based on whether people had a sleep disorder or not. These tables helped me see that people with poor sleep tended to report higher stress and greater caffeine usage, which supports two of my original predictions. To make my findings more visual, I created several charts using the Matplot library. One bar chart showed how stress levels increased as sleep quality decreased. Another showed the distribution of caffeine usage across different sleep durations. These visualizations made the data easier to understand and clearly supported the patterns I was seeing in the tables. This was definitely one of the more detailed parts of the project. It took me much longer than any of the other assignments, but it brought together everything that I learned, from cleaning and summarizing data to backing up my questions with visible evidence, and it really helped me support some of those original predictions I made with my research questions. After completing my project on sleep and health, I was able to find several important patterns using both my Google Forms survey and the sleep, health, and lifestyle dataset. Here's some of the key things I observed. First, people with higher stress levels tended to report both lower sleep quality and shorter sleep duration. That trend was really clear in my bar chart, which showed a steady drop in sleep hours and quality as stress increased from low to high. Next, I found that people who slept less than 6 hours per night were also more likely to report using more caffeine, often 2 or more servings per day. This supports my idea that poor sleep affects our daily choices and energy levels. Another interesting pattern was that the connection between physical activity and sleep quality showed that people who were more physically active generally had better sleep quality scores, and that was shown by my scatter plot. I also noticed that most people in my survey reported medium stress levels, and sleep quality ratings mostly fell between 6 and 7 out of 10. And when I looked at the online data set, I saw that people who had a diagnosed sleep disorder like insomnia or sleep apnea had much higher stress and worse sleep quality on average. All of these trends were backed up by the charts and summary tables I created in Python. In assignment 9, for example, I used the group by method to confirm that the high stress group had the lowest sleep quality and the low stress group had the highest. And my Data Studio report also supported this from one of the very first assignments, showing that younger people generally had better sleep habits than the older respondents. This project overall showed me that sleep isn't just about being tired. It's very connected to other things like stress, energy levels, lifestyle habits, and even our long-term health. As someone who personally struggles with sleep, this project felt really meaningful, and it also taught me how to use Python and Google Sheets to explore real-world health questions, clean data that is unorganized and has responses that are incorrect or missing certain elements, and tell a clear story using visual evidence. That's all for this project. Thank you for listening.